Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Again, we're reviewing the writings of Giuseppe Mazzini in Italy. Reading Mazzini in Italy. Okay, this is from A Cosmopolitanism of Nations. Now, I'm going to read talk about this is chapter 7 toward the Holy Alliance of Peoples. Now, this was written in 1849, and I'm not sure which part of 1849 it was written, but we remember in 1849, he and Garibaldi helped to establish the Republic of Rome, and it only lasted 6 months. But I have a feeling he doesn't mention that in this writing. So he does. What he does talk about is the failures of the revolutions of 1848. So he starts off by talking about the Holy Alliance, which was a whole bunch of monarchs who got together and said that they were going to. It says here, let us join together to prevent any of the weak from rebelling against the yoke that we impose on them. Should any nonetheless rebel, we will crush them. So those are the monarchs. That's basically what their Holy Alliance was about. Now, that was back in 1815. And so what he's calling for is a Holy Alliance of Peoples, where people would come together and be able to oppose those oppressors. So he goes on. Says our victory is foreordained. So that's pretty audacious, pretty hopeful in 1849 when there's been all these revolutions a year prior, and none of them really worked. The most successful was probably Mazzini and Garibaldi in the Republic of Rome, because they actually established a constitution for a little while, and ran the Pope out of Rome, but then the French came, as the French always do, and destroy republics. So what he talks about union. He talks about first, sincere and active unions at the domestic level, and then a single union of all the European peoples who are striving toward the same goal. Now, of course, union, another word, is association. It says our faith requires that we establish a new type of association as the fundamental mark of our epoch, and do away with the old and fatal individualism. So individualism, is more of the classical liberal principle, and he says, yeah, that's important, but you have to have individuals coming together for the greater good also. He says, I don't say all of this out of blind veneration for universal suffrage. Universal suffrage can indeed be an uncertain and sterile method if it does not serve to interpret an accepted pact of association and is not supported by a truly national education. So we go on from there. Again, the principle of having your nation, and the nation is like a workshop to promote humanity. So the future Europe of peoples will be united through a new type of federation which will avoid both the anarchy, meaning chaos really, that's what he means here, of absolute independence, and the tyrannical centralization that results from conquest. So he talks about these articles of faith that that everybody shares, including liberals at the time. And he says, first, there is a providential law of progress. Second, association is the means of this fulfillment. And third, the harmonic development of all the moral, intellectual, and physical faculties of mankind is the law's ultimate goal. Okay, so he talks about we also want the best of us, that is, the most magnanimous and the most intelligent to guide us in our journey. We want our leaders to be recognized and accepted as such by a popular vote. Okay, this is 1849, remember? that will make it possible to replace today's struggle with a relationship of harmony and trust among the governors and governed. Hence, the republic is the logical form of democracy. He goes on to emphasize that individualism and society is sacred. You need both. And it's similar in the international realm. You have the nations and humanity. You need both. Let's go on. Oh, and then he gets into a little bit of the mechanics. Now, this is kind of early on. We have seen. Now, at this time, there have been others who have used the phrase United States of Europe, and this is these are his ideas on his thoughts on that. It says, I hope we'll one day establish a large international democratic association divided into two sections. So you have with its members representing all the different human activities and professions. Let's go on. You have a Supreme International Council composed of few European and American men, highly respected for their knowledge, virtue, and reason, as well as the sacrifices bravely endured for the sake of our common cause. So their responsibility would be, and then you'd have these national councils composed of men more closely united by the bond of brotherhood and common origin. In order to secure the coherence of our project, each national council would be presided over by the nation's leading representative on the Supreme International Council. Okay, so that's an interesting, you don't see that a lot, where you have the person who's in charge of a region also go off to represent that region. But, that's a good idea. Says first, the Supreme Council would represent the principle, and second, the national councils would represent the application. All right, so you got some theory and practice going on there. The International Council would design a new map of Europe. It would promote a holy alliance of the oppressed against the oppressors. It would harmonize the movements and efforts of different peoples, and there would also be a democratic tax. And there's three different reasons to have this that it would be applied for. You have a portion of the tax would be used for a credit institution for the common folk. Okay, so there's capital for people to invest with, common people. The second one is to support the press and popular education, and the third is to provide support to those people who have risen up to vindicate their rights. Okay, to carry on the revolution. And then he gets into something that is might have influenced Gramsci later on in Italy. He says that supporters of a democracy need to put into practice as much of this as possible, otherwise we will continue to drag ourselves indefinitely along a path of isolated uprisings, which may be glorious, no doubt, and beneficial to humanity, but which crucially will not lead us to victory. And then he says that we don't have to agree on everything, and then he ends by saying, let us unite. So, yeah. So that was really interesting. Holy Alliance of Peoples. Until next time, long live the Republic.